Okay, this is live. We are live here. I am testing this out. Hold on, we're checking technical stuff. And check. We are testing it. I'm going to give it a few minutes before we hit the content. Hang tight. Okay, here we go. Welcome, everybody. This is the Sunday Night Talk, recording this live on YouTube. That's right, I am live. At least I think I am, because that is the plan for the playoffs here at the Sunday Night Talk, is we are going to be live after every game, every Sunday night game, that is, with our thoughts, reactions, everything that happened that day. So as you know, the playoffs are fully upon us. So I thought I would go through some of my playoffs hopes and dreams, observations, headlines from the week that happened now that the regular season is over. So let's talk about it, because the playoffs are here. It's going to be wild card weekend, super wild card weekend. I think this is our third year doing super wild card weekend. So let's talk about the teams that are in there. By now we know all the matchups. Minnesota at the LA Rams, which may be experiencing a venue change due to the recent LA fires. I saw a headline that it might go to Phoenix. That's the Monday night game, remember, so we'll have the most time to figure it out. Other game, Washington at Tampa Bay, Green Bay at Philadelphia. On the AFC side, LA Chargers at Houston, Pittsburgh at Baltimore, Denver at Buffalo, and the two number one seeds, which are on a bye, are Detroit and Kansas City. So let me talk about my playoff hopes and dreams. This is what they are. My favorite matchup of the weekend, the game I am the most interested in seeing, the result, seeing the actual play of the game, it's Washington and Tampa Bay. Washington goes into it as the 6th seed, Tampa Bay the 3rd seed. I like both these teams. I like both these quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels has had this phenomenal rookie year. Dan Quinn, the coach of the Washington Commanders, phenomenal first year as their head coach. And on the other side, Baker Mayfield has become this veteran, this person that we can just throw on TV and know we're going to watch this great game. Throw in Mike Evans, who is now tied with Jerry Rice with the 11 straight 1,000-yard receiving, and they have a home game for the playoffs. Looking at the matchup of this game here, I think it's really even. I think Washington is going to be able to move the ball. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to move the ball. The home field is big for Tampa Bay, and I'm having a hard time really not choosing a winner, but figuring out who in my heart I want to win. Because I can make an argument for Baker. This is his out of nowhere year, his twilight year, where we didn't really talk about him this season I mean, we talked about him, but we didn't talk about him in the conversations of the Jaden Daniels, of the Patrick Mahomes, of the Josh Allens. We talked about him as this kind of second tier quarterback that was winning games. Team was good. Division was not strong that he's in, the NFC East. They win it. And all of a sudden, I would never want to bet against this guy. I know he's going to find a way to pull these off. So difficult there. Flip it. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, just on offense alone, have a ton of weapons. And I have a feeling we're going to see a great game from him, too. Rookie year, there's no pressure. Away game, there's no pressure. Somehow that makes players elevate their game. Difficult. This is why it's my favorite playoff game of the weekend. I'm not sure where it's slated in the order of the games, but this is the one I am sitting down. I'm watching this game from kickoff to the end of it. It's going to be great. I know this is going to be the great one. Okay, let's keep going. My least favorite playoff matchup. It's Green Bay at Philadelphia. Both these teams are good. For some reason, I don't care a lot about either of these teams. I feel like we all have Philly fatigue, even though Saquon Barkley's had this great year as a potential MVP candidate for a few weeks. There's something about Philly that makes me think this team is not going to the Super Bowl. This team is not going to the NFC Championship. Now, I have been hearing a lot of talk about how Philly is good. And for certain, I don't see it. I'm basing this purely on the eye test of me. On the other side, Green Bay, I'm so concerned with Green Bay and the way they finished their season last week with Jordan Love getting banged up, Malik Willis, the backup, getting banged up. I'm not sure I know what we have with Green Bay. Not to mention they have to go on the road to the number 2 seed, Philadelphia, Green Bay being the 7th seed. So maybe I've talked myself into this game a little bit. Maybe it'll be interesting to watch, but I don't really care who wins this game. I don't think either of these teams are going anywhere. I don't know what that says about me or either of these teams. I'll be very surprised if either of these teams makes a run into the playoffs. I just do. Trying to make the argument for each team and looking at the matchups that they would have to go to the Super Bowl. I don't see it. Is it possible for both these teams to lose to each other in the first round? Okay, now I've got some fun categories for Super Wildcard Weekend. Again, live on YouTube right now. This Sunday, we are going to be live for the Sunday Night Talk. I'm going to tweet out the link, send out Instagram posts so you'll know ahead of time. Let's see how it does. Let's see if people tune in. Here's my list of away teams that have a shot this weekend. Away teams, meaning the underdogs. Okay, first one is Minnesota for sure. We knew Minnesota was going to be a favorite. So I got Minnesota has a real shot to win their wild card. They're the 5th seed. They go in to play the LA Rams, who's a 4th seed. We may get some extra motivation from these LA Rams now, though. But Minnesota's the better team. LA Rams have not been as consistent, although full of options on offense. But I think Minnesota rebounds from that loss last week as well. So I think Minnesota has a real shot. And another away team that has a shot this weekend, the LA Chargers. LA Chargers going into Houston. Houston has quietly been coasting the last 6 weeks of the season. I think there's holes in their offense and their defense. LA Chargers can put together a good game. I don't think they are one of the elite teams. I don't think Herbert has made elite quarterback status yet. Probably not even top 5 quarterbacks yet. But they can put together a really good game. They can put together a good game plan, and this is a good opportunity for them. Again, this is Herbert's, I think, 2nd playoff game, maybe 3rd. I think it's the 2nd. He doesn't have a lot of pressure on him. I think there's more pressure on C.J. Stroud here, given the regular season they had and the expectations. So I think the LA Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings are my away teams that can win this weekend. Next category for the playoffs, my playoff weekend. The blowout alert. I got a serious blowout alert for Denver at Buffalo. I don't think Denver's good. I think KC rolled over for them in the last week of the season. Somehow KC tanked themselves, and they were number 1 seed. I don't know how they did it. So Denver won last week. They get the final playoff spot instead of Cincinnati. Denver goes into Buffalo. I don't think Denver can play with Buffalo. I don't think they can play with them on offense. I don't think they can play with them on defense. The only thing I see happening is if Denver goes down the field on their first drive and goes up 7-0, and then Buffalo will rattle off 4 straight touchdowns. Serious upset alert for the Denver Broncos. I think just them getting into the playoffs is a win enough for them. Upset Denver. I think you're going down. Okay, next category. Stay with me on this one. This should not be a close game. And that is going to be Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Pittsburgh is the 6th seed, Baltimore the 3 seed. Pittsburgh has not looked good the last few weeks. I had serious problems with that end of the drive that Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh offense attempted against Cincinnati last week. And I just think they're so exposed. I think their defense has holes in it that someone like Lamar and Flowers and Derrick Henry can run all the way through, flip it. I just don't see a path for Pittsburgh. And all that being said, this game is going to be a field goal game. Why? I don't know. Call it penalties, call it a missed field goal by the Ravens, call it a weird pick 6 scoop and score. I have no idea, but this is going to be a close game, and it should not be. This should not be a close game. Next question, next category for my playoffs. Who has the most riding this playoff run? To me, I think Josh Allen has the most riding this playoff run. He has been told the team is good. You're good. We had MVP talk about him this year. This is the year. They are the 2 seed. They've got home games. There's a lot riding here. If they don't make the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl, I think they're disappointed. I think this team is the best team in the AFC. I know Kansas City has the 1 seed, but I just look at the paper. I look at the eye test. I think Buffalo's the best team. They need to go to the Super Bowl. So Josh Allen has a lot of pressure. Also, he is not young. This is his 5th year in the league. This needs to be his year. Arguably last year was his best shot, and they didn't have the deepest run. So Josh Allen has a lot of pressure on him, and I know he's going to get past Denver, but I think we need someone else on his offense to contribute, to step up more than they have in the regular season. Because if it turns into Josh Allen hero ball, running for first downs, taking hits, not sliding, I fear it's going to wear him down after the divisional round. Josh Allen has a lot riding this playoffs. Okay, I want to talk some updates during the week, because as soon as the regular season ends, we have the coaching portal begins. We had coaches fired immediately after the games, after week 18. Gerard Mayo, the Patriots, fired, totally fired after the game. I'm like, all right, shake hands. Gerard Mayo, can I speak to you for a second? Yeah, you're fired. The fact that they fired him so quickly made me think that they have someone in place ready to take the job. And as you're listening to this, it's Thursday night, no announcement. So I was wrong in that. I thought like, oh, they're going to cart in Vrabel in 48 hours and we're done. This is why this happened. No, we have not seen it. In fact, we've seen Vrabel take interviews from other teams by this point too. So I'm not sure what the thinking, what the logic, what the plan was for New England with that move. Coach is fired. Gerard Mayo got fired. Doug Peterson is fired. Antonio Pierce fired. Now let's talk coaches who are out there that could get some interviews. Mike Vrabel, Ron Rivera, Pete Carroll are some names that I think are going to get hired. Bill Belichick, as we know, went to UNC. Oddly, there was still talk of him interviewing with the Raiders. There's apparently a buyout clause in his contract, so it was possible, but then he sent out a media post that he was not going to the NFL. So, very interesting carousel that's happening right now with the coaching tree, the coaching um, pool of people out there. And we have not had an announcement yet of anybody hired. So, the search continues. Lastly, the Dallas Cowboys. We've seen some statements from other teams announcing that they're keeping their coach, like the New York Giants sent out a statement that they're keeping their head coach. The Raiders fired their GM. But what about the Cowboys? We've seen some requests of other teams requesting to interview Mike McCarthy as if he is going to be fired, as if he's on the chopping block. Do they know something we don't know? No statement from the Cowboys right now, whether they keep McCarthy or not. My gut tells me they do not. But the Cowboys are a weird team. They keep coaches way too long. We had Jason Garrett for, I think, almost a decade. So it's very possible Mike McCarthy comes back. I think he's done, but if Jerry Jones goes to the 50-yard line on the Dallas Cowboys Star and says, we're bringing back McCarthy, I'm not surprised at this point. That's the coaching pool right now. It's changing almost every 12 hours, essentially, when we have all this media that we just can consume and click on, and we'll see a post that says, report, Mike Vrabel requested to be interviewed. Report, Pete Carroll. And then they'll Photoshop a Raiders shirt on him so it looks like he's a Raider. And now I ask the question, especially with some of these teams that are in the playoffs, their coaches are being requested to be interviewed. Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders requested to interview him. Offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions being requested to be interviewed. Does this affect a playoff team, i.e. one of these number one seeds? Because they've got game plans. Now they've got this little bit of a news story that they might have to address. Reporters are going to ask them about it. And that, I think it takes away from the focus. Back to coaching. Are these teams coached well enough that they can block out the distractions like that? The coaching carousel, as soon as the regular season ends, I will be honest, I don't necessarily like. It's all rumor, it's all tweets, it's fake tweets. I don't know if I can do without it. And I can just fast forward to the press conference where they hire the new head coach. Now, if you were to ask me as a Raiders fan, who do I want coaching the Raiders? Pete Carroll interests me. I think a second run with a new team, he's got it in him. He's a coach that players buy into. I think he's a fit. I also wouldn't have mind Antonio Pierce giving one more year. This was his first year as a head coach ever. And after 1 year out, same with Gerard Mayo, 1 year out. Makes me think a coach is lined up, but we have not seen an announcement. We have not seen any confirmation whatsoever. So, update on the coaching carousel this Sunday. Back to the playoff games. Let's talk some playoff games. Let's talk betting for the playoff games. The biggest point spread of all these playoff games is Baltimore giving 9.5 points to Pittsburgh. If I were to guess the point spread in this game, I might have guessed 10. 9.5 sounds about right. Again, somehow this game's going to be close. I guarantee this game's going to be close. Pittsburgh just plays them tough. Baltimore, I think, is going to give away a touchdown somehow. And Pittsburgh's going to cover, or maybe it's going to be a dumb cover where Pittsburgh scores a garbage time touchdown and they cover the spread. 9.5 sounds right. I think this is the game with the biggest point spread besides the upset alert I gave to Denver, but interesting that that's the biggest one. Denver-Buffalo is not. I agree with it, though. All right, most surprising point spread. For me, this goes to the LA Chargers giving 3 points to the Houston Texans. Away team is favored in this game. I'm scratching my head on this, like, what is the Chargers? What are they going to do well in this game? Is it offense? Well, I haven't seen that breakout game from them on offense this year. I don't know who their running back is. Can they have a 100-yard game? Can Herbert air it out? I know he's got an arm, but we never see him air it out. We see a lot of 7 to 10-yard passes. So where is this -3 coming from? And I think it's coming from Houston's end of the season. Not impressive. Injuries. We haven't seen the CJ Stroud of midseason. Do I agree with this point spread? God, I might have flipped it. I might have said Houston was -3 because they're the home team. And first-year coach Jim Harbaugh, I don't know if you get over that first playoff win that quickly. Surprising point spread. I don't know what you think on that. I was surprised by that. -3 Chargers. All right, what is the closest point spread? And I'm curious as I record this Thursday night if this line will move due to the change of venue. Closest point spread is Minnesota at the LA Rams. Minnesota's giving 1 point. I would have guessed this is more of a 3 to 4 point spread, but at 1 point, Minnesota favored. That's close. And say we move venues to Phoenix like was proposed or posted, how much does that line move? Now do we get to the 3 or 4 points for Minnesota? If you move this game to Phoenix, that's still a lot of LA Rams fans there. Interesting. I'm also a little surprised by this spread as well. I think Minnesota can win this game by 10 plus, though. I really do. They have so much offense, and I don't know if the Rams can put together 4 quarters. Interesting. Lastly, I've got a category. It's called the There's No Way Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl. Well, I think there is no way that these two teams will meet in the Super Bowl. And to me, it's Washington and Denver. There's no way Washington represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. There's no way Denver represents the AFC in the Super Bowl. If you disagree, write your comment, make your case, but I see no way Denver can beat any of these teams in the AFC. Maybe Houston on a bad day. There's no way they beat Buffalo. And even if they do, they would play KC. There's no way they could beat KC. I don't see it. On the flip side, Washington, I can't make a case for Washington making it to the Super Bowl, although maybe more of a case than Denver. I think Washington loses to Tampa Bay, but if they should win Tampa Bay, they either would play Detroit or Philadelphia next. I don't see them getting through 2 playoff games. There's no way Super Bowl, Washington, Denver. Plus, God, that'd be a boring Super Bowl. Our last category for the Sunday night talk on a Thursday, playoffs, hopes, and dreams. There's the Super Bowl I want, and I feel there's the Super Bowl we'll get. So before I say it, just run through your head every playoffs. I would always say, God, I hope we see this matchup. Can you imagine if we saw this matchup in the Super Bowl? And then you sort of come down from the clouds and you say, like, yeah, we're probably going to have this Super Bowl, though. So here's the Super Bowl I want. I want to see Tampa Bay and Buffalo in the Super Bowl. Storylines, fun atmosphere, 2 really fun offenses, 2 underrated defenses too. Huge, huge weight for Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. Both have never been to a Super Bowl. That's always a great matchup when you have 2 teams with players who have never been to a Super Bowl. That's the one I want really, really bad. If you really twist my arm, I could say Detroit, Buffalo. Don't mind it. But I really want to see Tampa Bay versus Buffalo. Versus the Super Bowl I think we're going to get. Playoffs haven't started yet. This is just what I think. This is my 1,000-yard stare into the playoff map. And I'm going by the regular season I watched, all the football I watched, all the tweets I read, all the Instagram posts. This is a Super Bowl I think we're going to get. I think we're going to get Detroit versus Baltimore. I think Detroit is the best team in the NFC. I think we're going to have that Minnesota-Detroit matchup at some point. I just don't see any team being better than Detroit on one day with so much on the line. So I think Detroit comes out of the NFC. And if it's Tampa Bay that loses to them, I'm okay with that. On the AFC, Baltimore. Now, what's Baltimore's path? They got to get through Pittsburgh, which I think will be a close game, but they'll win. And that may help them. When a high seed wins a close game early and sort of puts them on watch and be like, okay, we can't let it get to that again. I think that helps them. So say they get through Pittsburgh, then they'll play, theoretically, then they'll play either the Chargers or Houston. I think that's easily winnable of both those teams. And then say they go into the AFC Championship against, let's say, Buffalo. I think that's winnable. Now, they would have to go to Buffalo to win that game. But if it's their year, they've got momentum by the same, I think they can win in Buffalo. Now, that begs the question, who's beating KC? Now, I got most likely, if it goes by my prediction, I think the Chargers will beat Houston, making them play the matchup of Kansas City. There's no way the Chargers can put together a win against Kansas City. I don't see it happening. If they give them a run for the money, which KC has shown that they've given teams the ability to play with them for 4 quarters, I think that's possible. So that would lead us to Baltimore, Kansas City, the next matchup. Or not Baltimore, either Buffalo or Baltimore. And I got Baltimore's winning this game against KC going away. I think the pressure's too much for KC and the dam breaks. They've been flirting with losses all year long. They'll fight. They'll make it a good game. But I think Baltimore can get over the top of them. They've got to play a perfect game, which the weirdest thing about Kansas City this year is they have not played perfect, yet it's taken every single team to be perfect for anybody to beat them. It's a strange KC year, and I wonder how we're going to look at it in a year from now or start of next season. Say they don't win the Super Bowl, and we say, what went wrong? What were they missing? Was it this? Was it offense? Was it defense? Was it coaching? What went wrong? And right now, them at 15-1, I can't say what went wrong or if anything is going wrong right now because they're winning. They're winning ugly. They're not even winning ugly. They're winning weird. But they're always winning. And now we have playoffs. There's no underdog teams anymore playing KC in an AFC Championship matchup. These are all evenly matched competitors. And I think Baltimore gets over the top of them. I think Lamar's too much. I think this is Mahomes of 3 years ago type Lamar, where 3rd and 13, Lamar's out of the pocket, first down. I think he's got that potential this playoff run, and he can do it. That's the Super Bowl I think we'll get. Detroit versus Baltimore. Just think about that matchup for a second. How awesome that would be. Another setup where would be Lamar's first Super Bowl. Detroit's first Super Bowl in, 1,000 years. Now, Goff has been to the Super Bowl before, but with a different team. This is different. He's the leader of a new team. We've got the Dan Campbell story, which, if I were to digress for a second, this is the story all us Raiders fans wanted, is the former fiery player, now head coach, taking your team somewhere. That's what we wanted, a Dan Campbell situation, and we didn't get it with our Antonio Pierce. That's what Detroit has put together the last couple of years. The players have bought in, and they've really got something. Detroit versus Baltimore, I think that's our Super Bowl. I think that is our logical Super Bowl. I don't think you can talk me into Minnesota. You cannot talk me into Philly. I have no confidence in Philly. And on the AFC side, I really feel Kansas City will make the Super Bowl some way, somehow. It's possible, but just the eye test, either Buffalo or Baltimore beats them. Beyond that, I can't see Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver, no way, or the Chargers making the Super Bowl. Super Bowl I want, Tampa Bay, Buffalo. The Super Bowl we're going to get, Detroit versus Baltimore. Where are you on the playoffs? How are you watching it? I like the Saturday game. I'm still a little iffy on the Monday night playoff game. It almost feels like a little playoff fatigue by that point, or the point where I'm like, oh yeah, There's a game tonight. You know, I don't have that build-up anticipation, but maybe I will this year because the Monday night playoff game, this is like their third year. So maybe I will have that Monday night motivation. So we have a lot to look forward to. We have a lot to discuss. Get your notepad out, make your notes, because this Sunday, the Sunday Night Talk is going live right after the playoff games. This was my trial run, YouTube Live, my playoff hopes and dreams on the Sunday Night Talk. I will see you there. I will send out the link so everybody can watch it. And of course, it'll post to YouTube right after. Thank you, everybody. That was my playoff hopes and dreams for the Sunday Night Talk. I am Patrick Ramirez. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel. All my stuff is up there. Stand-up comedy, my long-form interviews, and the Sunday Night